What's the best treatment for lower back pain? That's what we're going to be discussing in this tutorial, and we're going to be exploring a particular category of lower back pain. We're going to talk about different aspects of what goes into a rehab program for that type of lower back pain. If you're suffering with lower back pain and you want some help, click the link below. You'll go through to my How to Overcome Lower Back Pain consultation and coaching, which I'll tell you more about at the end of the tutorial. So what's the best treatment for lower back pain? Well, as I mentioned, we're going to look at a particular category, and that category is mechanical lower back pain. So what we have to do first, which is the start of the online consultation and coaching, which is identify a mechanical aspect to it, which is what you do in the online questionnaires. If there's a mechanical aspect to it, I can then help. So there are essentially four components that go into the rehab program, which is everyday activities, massage or foam rolling, stretching and exercise. Now, where someone starts with all of that could be anywhere. You could start with one category, you could start with all the categories. That all depends on what comes out in the initial questionnaire and the consultation, because I'm then able to put it together. But what we're going to do now is look at each aspect or each component, each four components, one at a time. Number one, everyday activities. That's probably the most important component because that's generally what causes the back pain in the first place. So it could be the initial cause and it could be the trigger that keeps happening. Now, what we have to do is we have to identify what that is. So it could be lifting with poor posture. So again, what we have to do is we have to eliminate it if we can, reduce it, or modify it. So we may have to change how you're lifting. It may be, if I just grab a weight here, it may be that we've got a weight and it could be something as simple as you go down into position, you've got a rounded spine and you lift. So it might be that we identify that you can still lift, but if you modify the position of the spine in so much as we come down into this position, we lift, it doesn't trigger the back pain. So we've got that. That's just one way of modifying the movement and it's fine. Now, it might be that we need to eliminate it, or it might be that we just need to reduce the amount that we're doing it as well. So we've got all these different options that we need to look through. And this is the part where there's a degree of deduction, process of elimination, and finding which is the best strategy for you. Another one could be sitting. So again, everyday sitting. We've got to be able to manage that. Can we eliminate it? Can we modify it? Can we reduce it? Can we break it up? What we can then do, once we've established that, okay, you need to sit, it's part of your job, then what we may need to do is just modify it, break it up. Does changing position in the seat, does leaning to one side help? Does leaning to the other side help? Does leaning back in the seat? Does sitting right back in the seat so you can maintain the posture? Does that help? So we've got all these different things that we need to try and identify first of all, what the trigger is and what's the exacerbator or the cause that brings on the lower back pain. And then we can start thinking about ways that we can break it up. I've only talked about two exacerbators or two triggers or two causes of your lower back pain. Because it's everyday activity, it could be anything. It could be gardening, it could be walking, it could be standing still, it could be all these different things. So what we have to do first is, first of all, identify the everyday activities that are causing the problems. Then, as I mentioned, we need to reduce it, modify it, or completely eliminate it if we can. What that then's doing, that's removing the trigger. So what we're now able to do is foam roll, stretch, and exercise. Now, it may be that we need to include these to help the everyday activities, but what we'll do now is we'll discuss these next three components. Foam rolling and massage is another aspect of a rehabilitation process. It doesn't mean it has to be used, but it's a good, useful tool to be able to use it. And what is foam rolling doing? Well, foam rolling or the aim of foam rolling is to relax the muscles around the lower back. Not necessarily the muscles of the lower back, but the muscles around it. So what we would tend to do is target the hips. So as you can see, I've got a foam roller here, and if we can calm these muscles down, we are then going some way to releasing the pressure on the lower back. What it can then also do is help with the everyday movement. So foam rolling could be a useful way of increasing range of movement of the hip. What we can then do is lift that much easier and lift, possibly get ourselves down a little bit further. So again, we're modifying how we lift. So what we're looking to do is we're looking to foam roll potentially the hips. This, again, none of this is 100% sort of in the plan. It all depends what's written in the online consultation. But essentially what we're trying to do is we would go onto a roller and we would literally just roll through the hips. Now again, depending on the lower back, on the type of lower back pain, so if you have sciatic symptoms, i.e. pain going into the buttock, possibly down the leg, possibly down into the ankle, what you could have, it doesn't mean you have got it, but you could have, and there are ways of identifying this, you could have trigger points in the hip that are creating the pain going down the leg. If we can identify that, which we can do from the consultation and the questionnaire, if we can do that, what we're then able to do is be able to calm those muscles down, calm the trigger points down, which will calm the pain down. If it's more true sciatica, where the nerve's coming from an irritated nerve, again, we have to identify that. And what we then have to do is sort of act in a different way. But what we may also find is that hip range of movement is limited, which could be an added factor. So again, just by coming onto a foam roller, going through glute max, then we come onto the side here, glute medius, glute minimus. What we may find is that that starts to calm the muscles down, which then allows the muscles to relax and the pain and the sensitivity to the pain to start to reduce. So again, we've got different drivers of the pain. Is it the muscle knots? Is it the nerve? We have to identify that first to see whether foam rolling is going to be useful or whether we need to go about it in a different way. What we may also find, if you've got pain sort of more so in the lower back, as it were, again, we've got more trigger points which are a little bit higher up the back onto the rib cage. Again, we can identify that. I've got some muscle trigger point video sort of assessments which you can go through and identify if you have got muscle trigger points. Again, if you have, foam rolling, massage may well be a useful tool to use to reduce your lower back pain. So again, depending on the driver of the lower back pain will depend on whether this is used or not. And there are ways of identifying that and identifying whether this will be a useful tool for you. Number 3 is the use of stretching. Now, again, depending on your lower back pain, if you've got true sciatic pain, and it's an irritated nerve, we don't really want to be stretching the sciatic nerve because that's only going to irritate it further and cause it to initiate more pain or exacerbate more pain, which is what we don't want to do. So when we use stretching, we have to use it in a sensible way. So if you've got sciatic symptoms, we just don't stretch where the nerve passes. So there are other stretches that can happen. And again, if we need to use that, it will come out in the hip range of movement assessments that are in the online course. So you can assess the internal rotation, external rotation of the hip, see if that's adequate or not. If we need to increase that range of movement, there are ways of doing that. So it's very much using stretching in a bit more of an intelligent way, because if you've got plenty of range of movement, then we probably won't need to stretch. But it's identifying that first. What else stretching can do? It can work alongside the foam rolling that we've done already. So what the foam rolling will do, it will start to relax the muscles. Now, depending on which muscles that we need to stretch will depend on which stretches we do. So when it comes to identifying that, we would understand that and then we would go about going through the necessary stretches. But if you've got sciatica, or sciatic symptoms where they go down the back of the leg, we would be looking at stretching out other muscles of the hip. So you've got the inside of the leg. You've got the psoas, here we go, into position here, stretching up through. So again, we wouldn't target the muscles down the back of the leg because that's only going to irritate the sciatic nerve because that's where it passes. So we need to start looking elsewhere. If it's not that, and if it's being in the lower back and it's being driven from potentially other tissues or other trigger points, then stretching may be useful, because if we can identify that there's a hip range of movement problem, then it can be helpful. Also, if you have got muscle trigger points, again, just stretching the muscle, doesn't have to be a lot, but just a little bit, can just again help calm those trigger points down, which can then help reduce lower back pain in that way. So again, when we're adding stretches into any sort of rehab program, they have to be, it has to be identified that they're going to be useful. So we have to try and find that. That will come out in the questionnaires, the consultation, which is what we'll try and understand when we do that. Finally, number 4 is exercise. Now, this is the place where most people want to jump straight into. But with regards to exercise, they aren't necessarily a pain-reducing modality. There may be some stability issues, some endurance and some strength issues in the core. That, again, is where exercise can be useful. Certain core exercises like your planks, your side planks, your bird dogs, they are great at activating muscles. They're good at building endurance, strength and stability. So if we're just looking to activate a muscle, which maybe we identify that when you brace your abdominals, that helps when you're moving around, when you're lifting, when you're sitting, so on and so forth. We may use exercise as a means just simply to activate those muscles. So it's not about being in the position for 30 seconds, a minute, and building that endurance. It's just a case of coming into the position, bracing, getting everything on, going out. We do 1 set there, we come into a side plank, we hit some 10 seconds there, and then we come out. And that's all that we do, because all we're looking to do is get the muscles activated. What we can then do is you can then go about your day. So when I mentioned, is sitting a problem and do we need to break it up? If we do, some exercises may be useful, because when you sit, a lot of muscles will go offline. If we can break up every, say, 10, 15 minutes, depending on, again, what the questionnaire highlights to us, it may be that we do 10 minutes of sitting, then we just do a bird dog, side plank, and then we go back to sitting. And then what we may find is that the sitting periods are able to be extended. But again, that's when the coaching comes in, because you've got 2 weeks of coaching. So if we implement it, you feed back, yes, it's working, no, it's not working. If it's not working, we need to change it. If it is working, then we know we're moving in the right direction. So it's about knowing how to use exercise. Now, if, again, endurance, strength and stability is needed, because, again, in the consultation, there are some core tests to do. If you're completely weak there and muscles aren't working as they should, then it can be used to bring them in. But again, that's not there to reduce the pain. That's there to get the core working properly. If we can do that, then we're going to be in a much more advantageous place. But if you've got a good core, if you've got good hip range of movement, then it may just be that we do foam rolling and everyday activities. It all depends. Or we may just use a couple of activities just to get some muscles activated at certain periods of the day. But it's not a workout, if you will. So what we have to understand is what exercises we need to use, when we need to use them, how long we need to do them for, and what's the purpose of it. Is it to build endurance? Is it to build strength? Is it to build stability? Or is it just to activate the muscles? So when we are putting together this program, it's all built from the online consultation, and that highlights which component is needed. So to summarize what we've talked about, what's the best treatment for lower back pain? Well, it depends on the lower back pain. First of all, we have to understand that there's a mechanical aspect to it. Then we can start to put a mechanical solution together for you. Once we've got that, what are we talking about with regards to the components? Is it everyday activities? Is it foam rolling? Is it massage? Is it stretching? Is it exercise? Is it 2 of them? Is it 3 of them? Is it all 4 of them? Or is it just a combination of them? So we have to understand that. But again, as I've mentioned, all that comes out in the consultation, which is what you do up front. All of that is free. So you go onto the website, you click the link below, you go onto the website, you enter your details, they get sent to you. You fill out all the questions, they come back through to me, I read through them. If there's a mechanical aspect to it, I can let you know and I can get you booked in, and then we can go forward with the online consultation, and then I can put the program together, and then once you receive the program, you get then the 2 weeks of support off the back of it to fine tune it, to hone it, so on and so forth. So if you think that'd be helpful and you do want some help with your lower back pain, click the link below, and I look forward to speaking with you in the future.